Hello, everyone. I am Christine Ryer. I am the Church Building Support Officer with the Diocese of Lichfield. This is a relatively new position, which is being sponsored by the Church Commissioners in London. And the idea behind it is to give more support to church wardens as they tackle the maintenance and repair of church buildings and spaces. Recognize that it's a lot of work, and we want to help you as much as we can. And that's basically my role.
Thank you, Christine. I'm just going to do something technical. There we go. So hello, I'm Sue Parker. I'm the Enabling All coordinator. Again, relatively new. Worked for Enabling All since October, for about 2 years now, but been in role in this post since October. So Enabling All, if you don't know, it works to build Enabling All works to build church communities of people with all abilities. So we're all about people, spaces, and making change that lasts. So hopefully today we were hoping for a lady called Reverend Margaret Brighton, and she's a member of the DAC, and she's also a wheelchair user. And she is going to share her wisdom. Unfortunately, she isn't feeling so well, so can't join us. But what I've done is adapted. So we've got some video clips of people with lived experience of mobility issues in churches as well as other disabilities. And what I'll do is I'll stop the recording whilst the video's on. So just that's for people who are watching it now. You will get the videos, you can look at the videos yourself on YouTube. Okay, so the structure of this session will have, I presume that you've come or are listening to the presentation because you want to know more about making your building accessible and welcoming everyone into the spaces that you support. I want to begin by saying that we know that it's really challenging and costly to change a building. And we'll go through the typical process of how it works if this is something that you need. But please know that any questions about a particular situation are probably best discussed outside of this session. Let's begin by addressing the elephant in the room, ramps and toilets. So the wheelchair accessibility is really important. There are more to accessible buildings and ramps and toilets. And though they are really important for many, there are many others that can benefit from looking at our building there are many others that can benefit from different things by looking at our buildings with different eyes. And it's about informing our eyes so that we see our building in different ways and see the opportunities that our building gives us. So by the end of this, we'd love you to be informed, more informed, so that you can make informed decisions and share with worshippers and visitors what they can expect to experience in your space, what accessibility is available. So we know it's a phrase, isn't it, that churches are not buildings. It's about people and about the spaces that we have. And probably most people here are church wardens, and as your position as wardens, it is focused on the buildings. Everything you do is because of the people, though. And it's a fine balance, isn't it? And this is an opportunity to think through the tools that you have to structure and then you can structure what's ahead. So please start by thinking about the people around you. Do you have challenges when it comes to your church or using the build? Sorry, do you have challenges? Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so I'm having challenges reading my script at the moment. What challenges do you face? Maybe you have challenges when you enter the building or when you take part in worship. Maybe someone in your family does. Think about the people that come to your services. What challenges do they face? But your church is used for many things, messy church or coffee morning. There may be people that come there that have different challenges to people who come to your services. And we all have questions and concerns before we enter a space. There might be questions or shared concerns that we can do something about as responsible people in the church. Like, will I be able to get into a building? I'm just going to have to stop my dog from barking. Well, here's the joy of life. So what questions do people have when they enter your building? This is why we don't have dogs in our building. So what questions might people have when they enter your space? It might be, will I be able to get into the building? It might be, is there step-free access? It might be, will there be a toilet that I could use? Will I be able to hear what people say? Or will the noise be overwhelming? Maybe that am I able to sit still long enough? Or it may be even, do I have the energy to be able to come? Or will my technology work so that I can take part? And if you were someone doing it at the front, it might be that, will I be able to get onto the dais, or will I be able to get into the pulpit? Will I be able to lead communion in the way that people expect me to? Or if someone was a carer, they may be really concerned that it finishes on time, or that they really need time to chat because it's their one time to talk to people. So accessibility raises questions, and it's really a consideration for all of us. So who is affected by this? At least 1 in 5 people have a disability or a neurodivergence, and actually that might be a bigger number now. Let's have a look what neurodivergence is, because that's a word that's quite new to many of us. It's a range of challenges that people face and brain difference that people have. Includes all these things: dyscalculia, dyslexia, ADHD, Tourette syndrome. Neurodivergence may come from trauma and things that have affected them, or brain surgery, or brain accidents, mental health, autism and dyspraxia. All of those things can mean that we function differently, but also we also have different abilities, and some of those abilities bring new things and good things, and some of those abilities bring challenges, and that's what this list's about on this PowerPoint. So all these people have needs that can inform the decisions we make about what's in our building. And we have people in our churches that may be limited by how we do things in our churches, and maybe there is a way that the building is that limits them. Importantly, actually, we have people that are outside of our buildings that we don't even know are there. Where we live, there's a mixture of people, maybe from different cultures and backgrounds, different ages and abilities. And they may not, for reasons, for barriers that we don't know about, not be able to get into our buildings. And also our accessibility needs change at different times in our life. Maybe as we age, as our needs for more reasonable adjustments increase. So I've been taught to ask who's not in the room, and also ask why aren't they there, and to question what barriers exist. What I'd like to do now is play a video from somebody who has personal experience. What Emily Richardson just shared on that video is that it's important to hear from the people involved. and find out what their challenges are when they go into our building. If we, as people without those disabilities, make a decision, it may not be accurate and it may not be kind, actually. So after we find out more about who is and who isn't in your space, it's important to let people know what things you have in the building, what are you able to do in your building. There we go. Let's tell people. Do you know what accessibility is in your building? We'll be able to help you with that. If you share what you can do, then it means that people don't end up coming to your building and not able to come in. It gives them a chance to choose what they do. For example, people are more understanding and can prepare if there aren't any steps, if there are steps and there isn't a toilet. They need to be aware before they arrive. And we've got another bite-sized training about what information is useful to have available on your website or a church near you site. We've got a video, some other bite-sized training about that. So look us up on YouTube, Enabling All, and you'll find that video, but also I'll share it once for those that are at the live event. But where you can make changes, please do so, because even small changes can make a big difference to a lot of people. People might feel more welcome coming to your door if they feel included. It may be that you have, I don't know, fidget toys or headphones, that you already have large print copies of something, or if you have BSL signing or Makaton signing, even if you have signage to the toilets, that may mean, and signage back to from the toilets, if you have one, reserve parking, and to tell people that there's a bus stop outside and which buses go to it. Once you've informed people, like, we know that it's central to our faith that people are work in progress, and so are our places of worship. And we also know that it can be tiring to do this stuff, and it can be overwhelming to think about what accessible issues there are. But there are a couple of things that can help motivate us to make our buildings more accessible. And actually, the Bible asks us to celebrate together and support people in 1 Corinthians 12. But as well as the Bible saying this is great, do it, there's also a law, the Equality Act of 2010, which says that we have a legal duty to make reasonable adjustments and to have documentation about what we've done and what we have considered and what we are working on at present. And also what we know isn't possible in the near future. So in the Equality Act, it doesn't define what reasonable adjustments are, but it is understood, that in a rural, small church with few resources, that wouldn't be expected to have the funding available as such a large town centre church with more funds and more capacity to work on fundraising, planning, project management, referment, and so on. Don't panic with the Equality Act, but it's just something that helps us think, I'm doing something and I want to do something, and this is why. Legislation does require us to be anticipatory. We need to think ahead about who might come into our church, whether for a service or as a visitor or as a tourist, and also how the needs of our present congregation may develop in the future. And of course, this is the message of the gospel generally. So let's look at the things that can make our buildings more accessible, understanding that each space and community is unique. It can be a really long list, and I've already listed some of the things. It can include, make sure your hearing loop is working. Check that the accessible toilet, if you have one, is actually accessible and not being used as a store cupboard. Also, verbally repeating what is in the church bulletin, making sure that notices don't rely on people being able to read. Using pictures or larger fonts in your PowerPoint or in your service sheets. Also, having colouring available at the back, not just for children, for adults as well, and maybe fidget toys, as I mentioned. So there are many alternatives to spending lots of money. So it's worth thinking about how creative we can be about the solutions that we make. So what can we do about this? Well, Enabling will want to support you. We're here to support you. That's why we're here. So how do we find out about what barriers people are facing in our churches? Actually start by talking to people, those that you know that may have disabilities. Check that how they interact with the church, but also on a bigger scale, because there are so many hidden disabilities. Just start it as a conversation topic, maybe through a sermon, maybe through a church service, maybe just in your PCC. Maybe have a coffee morning where we talk about what accessibility issues are people facing. It may be that you have people who you know have a disability or a neurodivergence and you ask them. It may be that people in your church already have the skills to know what others might have. It may be that they work in a care home or a special school, or they're a parent or a carer of someone with additional needs or a disability. Because people who don't speak also don't have a voice in our church, so we need to be able to get them to have a voice. And you never know, people might be really willing to help you, and they might be the people that can help lead this, not just have a say in it, but lead it so it's not you taking it on. And please get connected with us. We have tons of information and ideas. We have videos for you to watch, lots of resources to help you think about how to make your buildings more accessible with these little changes. We also have an Enabling All award, which and we can guide you through the process. That's a structured way of helping you look at the accessibility needs in your church. I've also done something about, it's called an Accessible Service Toolkit, and also a Welcoming Church document. And we've got a video about that looks at it from our church services and how do we adapt our church services. But a word of warning before you look at this. It might be that there are clashes of needs. Some people need the music loud because they can't hear. Some people, because of sensory issues, may get overwhelmed. You might need coloured screens for dyslexia, or because of a vision impairment, it might need a different colour. So there are always creative solutions. So it may be that you get a printout for the service for one person and check that the PowerPoint works for another. There are all ways of solving solutions, but let's get the questions out in the open and then we can look at the solutions. So again, our churches and spaces are unique and it will require discussion, and it will require agreement at different levels to determine what the accessibility priorities are. But how do we find out what those are? You, as church wardens, have the quinquennial inspection report. That talks about accessibility issues, but normally focused on the building. It review the recommendations and consider doing any repairs or improvement if there is an opportunity to address any accessible needs. We know it's not easy. We know you will need support. We know fundraising is difficult. But also keep in mind accessibility when you are doing annual fabric reports and your monthly visual checks. As you can see here, we have 2 audits that are about accessibility audit. There's also a dementia-friendly audit that's on the Dementia Friendly Churches site. So we have a buildings access audit and we also have an easy access audit. The buildings access audit is simpler. It's focused on the buildings, and the easy access audit discusses all the issues around supporting your church to be accessible. So things like signage in the toilets, the fiddle toys, how do you engage people with additional needs? But we can go into that in a moment. So let me show you. So this is the longer audit. It talks about finding your church, getting to your church, signs and notices around your church, car parking, hearing loops, how do you approach your church, the lighting and the vision. And it goes through issues with additional needs, all sorts of other issues. It's about 6-7 pages long. And at the end of it, let me go back, sorry. As you'll see, in each area, it has comments and actions. So in the actions, you write down all the things that have come out from you asking yourself questions about a space. An audit is just you going around the space with relevant people and thinking, what can be done here? And this audit has all sorts of questions that you can ask yourselves. And then in the comments, write what your comments are. And then it may be a few days, it may be on the spot, you can have some actions, or it may be a few days later that you think these are the actions you want. Write down what actions have come up from your audit. And then to your quinquennial report, look at the priorities similar. So it can be an urgent thing, it can be something within 12 months, something up to 2 years that requires attention within 2 years, something within 5 years, or something we'd love to do, but we don't know when. Once you've done your audit and you've discussed your actions, you've already got the documentation that shows that you're considering the Equality Act. It's done and dusted. We'd love you to do actions and actually make a difference to your people, because that's what we're about. So I've mentioned the Enabling All Awards. We ask for 3 actions per year, and this is only because we know that it can feel overwhelming. It might be at this stage there are a number of things that can be easily done. And there might be some other things that take time. And I know that Christine knows more than me about this. What I'd like to quickly say is I started talking about this about 6 months ago in my church. We realised that there were some issues. We have people with learning needs, learning disabilities. So we put a trolley out with fiddle toys, colouring, and started the conversations. Through the conversations, we realised that there was a lady with macular degeneration. It's taken us 6 months to find a solution. We've looked at all sorts of ways of solving that, including whether we need to go to the DAC. And we've come up with the solution where all we have is, in the process of that, we've also printed off all of our songs in large print so she can do them. What we've found now is that we've managed to find a monitor that's plugged in close to her and she can see it. So actually the solution eventually, but it took a lot of time, was easy. Let me hand over to Christine now. I'm going to stop the share.
Thank you very much, Sue. I wanted to just add a little bit here about DAC and working with our buildings. As we said, it's originally going to be with us for this part. So I'm just going to touch on some highlights and we will be sharing some resources with you. The presentation has been intentionally structured this morning. We start with the conversation first, and I think that is a key message regarding your buildings. Start with the conversation around accessibility first. Figure out what your needs are within your congregation, within your visitor group, within your buildings. Once you have that assessment, that awareness, you've had that conversation, then you can start to look at what things you would like to do, what and how they interact with the building. So you may need to make some or want to make some changes to your buildings or to your property. At that point, we always encourage, whether it's for accessibility or for other repair work, very early in the process, in your planning process, please consult with professional advice. So, for example, you have an architect. I'd highly recommend that you be in touch with them. They will have a lot of knowledge and information around what you can and cannot do with buildings in terms of accessibility, particularly as it relates to planning guidelines in your community. But also, your QI report may also have information in there. Again, that document belongs to your church. It's there to help guide you. So please use it as a reference. And sometimes they do include information around if you would like to make this certain change, then you may need this level of ecclesiastical permission, and therefore you will need to be in touch with your DAC. So look for those cues in your QI report. Speak with a professional like an architect. Discuss it at your PCC. And above all, please be in touch with the DAC. They will be best positioned to advise you on what, if any, level of permission you need to make that change to the building or the property. So that would be my tips there. We also have some really helpful links on the diocesan website. We will be sending those to you afterwards. But when you're on the diocesan website, several links such as church buildings and DAC. It's a very good page. It gives you an overview of why we care about the buildings, the mission system that we work with, and how to be in touch with your DAC. And also what the DAC does and how they can be a tremendous resource for you. We also have a page that talks about permissions because, again, if you don't work with it every day, it can be overwhelming and a bit confusing. So we try to make it as simple as possible. You will hear words like faculty or full faculty. You will hear list A, list B, and other words too. And we try to, there are some basic guidelines around those to help give you an indication. But again, conversation with a DAC officer is your best starting point. Lastly, this time of year, annual inspections. There is a page about annual inspections. Particularly, we encourage you to do an annual fabric report. As Sue talked about, if you can build accessibility into your thinking and planning throughout the year, that is a really helpful way to start. So as you're walking around the building to do an update for the PCC on the fabric condition of the building, and also be thinking about accessibility. How easy is it to open a door? Where are the steps? What are the width of the aisles? Is there clutter? Can you move around the building? What is the lighting like, etc.? So it's very easy to incorporate this thinking into some of the tasks that you are already doing. So there is a page about annual inspections. And my favorite page of all, the frequently asked questions page. So again, when you go to the website and you look under church buildings, look for that frequently asked questions. It does deal with the easy, quick questions. But at any time, feel free to call myself or the member of the church buildings team. So again, the message is start with conversation, have that awareness and assessment, consult with the people around you, use professional advice and the support that is there. You're not alone in doing this. We're here to help you, and together work towards welcoming all to our church spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I think that sums it up brilliantly. I'm going to stop the recording now. Please get in touch if you have any questions. If you're watching this recording, as Christine said, we're here for you in the Lichfield Diocese.